back to the channel. Been away for a while, and I've had a real long winter off season. Kind of just things with the car and things not car related. But anyway, today's a kind of a special day. I've had the engine sent off to a machine shop, and it's been rebuilt, upgraded a few different things, and today we're going to dyno it. Basically, I took it out of the car in October, tore it down around Thanksgiving. Plugs were they were off, as far as, when I pull them out and look at them. Something just wasn't right about them. They had a bunch of deposits forming on them. Kind of looked like rust, and made me think, maybe something was going on in the heads, which there was. But upon initial tear down, everything looked fine. The biggest thing was when we took it to the machine shop and had the engine builder check everything. The heads, they were shot. I only had like 70 pounds of seat pressure on the springs, and the valves had tulipped. So that was kind of causing us a couple issues there. Plus, the only thing when we tore it down at home or at a friend's house, the only thing we found was number 5 rod and piston, the wrist pin. It was starting to seize up, so we had that issue, but everything else looked fine. Engine turned out to not have what I was told it had in it, as far as like the rods go, and the bore. Thought it was a 355. It's actually a 350, and we've kept it a 350. But anyway, the new combo, new setup on it right now is a same carburetor, 750 Holley. It's gonna have a Team G intake that's been ported all the way through. The heads, they've been worked some. The valve bowl area was cleaned up, had some work done there. The heads were already ported. So new springs and seats and valves and all that. Stuck with a flat tappet cam on it. It's a 537, 557 lift. This is with a 1.5 ratio rockers. What's the lift at 50? I think it's 256 and 264 if I remember right. And I think lobe separation angle is 105 or 106. The cam we had in it before was the old Crane Saturday Night Special cam. So this one's a little bit of an improvement, not much. But we've got good lifters in it, so we should be good there. Dome pistons, 5.7 rods, I-beam scat rods. Still got the same crank. It's a GM performance crank in it. Put a good oil pan on it, instead of that stock one we had. So this one's got the doors in it and the screen and the tray and everything. So that should help us out on horsepower just with that. So we're going to be going to the machine shop here within an hour, and then we'll be sure to video that. But I'm going to go ahead and update you on a few other things that I've done to the car and over the off season. So let me show you that. Alright, so underneath the car I basically repainted everything from the bumper brackets all the way up to the firewall. One thing I did was this right here. The way they used to have it, they had a flex line or a braided line running to the axle tube right here to this T, and they just had it zip tied around the axle tube and around the brake lines like that, and that's bothered me ever since I've had the car. So came through, bought these brake lines, welded this tab in here. That way it can stay in there, stick a little grommet, so it really won't move. And it's got plenty of slack in both, so we're good there. Replace the hub joints where the rod ends in this ladder bar diagonal link, as I call it. And just kind of went through the suspension here, cleaned everything up, checked everything, lubed it, checked rear end fluid, a lot of little maintenance things. That's really just about all I've done to it. Just nut and bolt checked the car. Like I said, painted it all the way up to the firewall. Just checked everything, cleaned everything up. Bunch of little things that make a difference. So pretty excited to get the engine on the dyno today here shortly, and get it back in the car, and hopefully it'll run a little bit quicker than it did last year. So find out in a bit. So things did not go well. Reason there's no video of engine on the dyno. Engine didn't make it. I got up to engine builder's shop and was carrying in 2 5-gallon pails of race fuel for it, and walk in, set it down, and noticed that he had the intake and valve covers off. And right at first, nothing clipped, but right about the time I got in the room, he said, we got a problem. I said, what is it? And he said he cranked it up. He cranked it up, ran okay. So I went and put it up at 2,000 RPMs, break in the cam with it being a flat tappet. And after about 5 minutes, it started making a rattling sound. So he shut it back off, went back in there, pulled the valve covers and checked valve lash, and I think he said about 4 or 5 of them were a little off. I asked, about how much, and I think he said 20 thousandths. So he checked it all, put the valve covers back on, cranked it up, and started at it again, and it got worse. And so shut it down, started taking it apart. That's when I got there. And then we didn't drain the oil out of the pan, but we did take the filter off. And the oil that we collected from taking the filter off, it had a good bit of metal. Not any major chunks, but it had a bunch of fine metal to it, and cut the filter in half and looked in it, and it just looked like the filter had been powdered with something. So cam and lifters, wiped out the lifters. Looked at them, they didn't look too terribly awful, but they didn't look obviously great. And with all the metal shavings, we got some problems. So gonna have to tear it back down to the block and check all the bearings. Probably just based off what I saw, and I'm no engine builder or expert by any means, but based off what I saw, it's all gonna have to get replaced as far as the bearings, and we're gonna have to figure this out. It's kind of not funny, but he told me last week when we were playing the dyno session that he was a little bit worried because he has been hearing that, on the internet and people he's talked to, in the, racing industry, motor industry, parts, that a lot of people lately are having issues with flat tappet lifters and cams. I think, lifters, I think, and it's potentially something to do with they're not getting hardened all the way, in the manufacturing process. At least that's what we're thinking. And I bought, a set of $225 Isky flat tappet lifters with that oiling hole in the face of the lifter. So definitely I didn't buy cheap, junk ass lifters. The cam that we put in it is one that he's very familiar with and uses in a bunch of other builds. It's an Elgin 1090P part number camshaft. But all that being said, I guess now, we kind of built this engine to run less than 7,000 RPMs, flat tap it, just a real mild bracket engine, nothing crazy. And we bought, parts to match up to the cam and what we're doing. So now, if I go to a solid roller, we're going to have to do some work to make the double humps take a solid roller with the valve springs and everything. So then it's like, put the Brodex track 1 heads I've got on it. Okay, I've already got the heads, so put those on there. Buy solid roller lifters and cam, which, we all know that's not cheap, or not cheap to me anyway. Potentially a different intake, because if we're going to be spinning it more RPMs, then we're gonna need, a better intake that'll work at those RPMs. And I already spent the money on this intake and spent a bunch of money and time having it ported. Then I've got hyper-eutectic pistons in it, and from what I've been told by my engine builder before this happened, and what little bit I know about them, you don't want to really turn hyper-eutectic pistons more than a high 6, about 7,000 RPMs, maybe 71, 72. But you're probably going to be right on the verge of, flirting with disaster on that, or, the pistons just aren't going to last very long. So, now we're looking at different heads, or putting those Brodex that I have on it. Potentially a different cam. Intake, definitely a cam. Lifters, push rods, like I said, pistons, and depending what we do there, maybe maybe even a different set of rods, possibly. The only reason why I would see myself doing that is if I can't find any pistons that would work, any Dome 350 standard bore pistons forged that would work with a 5.7 rod. Most work with a 6-inch rod. So I think this thing's going to snowball, and we're going to have to basically change the whole engine. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just what little bit I've been thinking about it. That's the way this is going. So we're just going to wait to hear back from him and kind of go from there on it, and try to keep you guys updated a little bit better than I have been in the more recent months. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.